I love Jason. I disagree firmly because I think we've lost our minds. And I'll say it to him to his face, and I've told him on the phone, and I'll tell him on the air again. I don't want to step in it, but I firmly disagree with Jason last week. I'm like, you want him cut. Why do you want him cut? You want him cut because you're tired of seeing people say nasty things to you on the internet? Do you want him cut because it's hard to cover him? Do you want him cut because when you say you don't think he's a good quarterback, he's got a big fan base and they go after you for it? Is that why you want him cut? Because wanting a guy cut from a team is a very strong thing.
Ken Carman has gone straight at Jason Lloyd, and what started as commentary has now exploded into one of the most intense arguments in Cleveland sports media right now. Carman isn't holding back at all over Lloyd's recent comments about Shedeur Sanders, especially the suggestion that the Browns should simply cut him. And this has gone far beyond a normal media disagreement. This has turned into a full-scale clash that has Browns fans arguing everywhere. Carman made it very clear that Lloyd crossed a serious line, because calling for a player to be cut is not a throwaway opinion you casually drop on radio or in print. When you say someone should be removed from the roster, you're basically declaring that player useless to the entire organization. Carman openly stated that he strongly disagrees with what Lloyd is doing, and the anger and disappointment in his voice were obvious as he explained why this kind of talk is reckless, unfair, and
Some of the stuff I read over the weekend, I thought it was insane. Insane. I told you guys a million times over.
The Jason Lloyd situation is spiraling quickly now, with fellow media figures, fans, and analysts all turning their attention on him. But this didn't come out of thin air, and it's important to rewind to where it actually began. It all started with Lloyd making a firm claim that Shedeur Sanders is not the solution at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And this wasn't framed as doubt or cautious analysis. Lloyd sounded completely convinced that Sanders has no chance of succeeding in Cleveland, and the tone of his comments is what set everything off. This wasn't balanced criticism or thoughtful breakdown. It came across as hostile and dismissive, almost personal in nature. Browns fans noticed it straight away, and many felt that what Lloyd was saying went beyond football opinion and into something far more targeted, which is exactly why the backlash ignited so fast.
Doesn't make tight window throws. He doesn't throw guys open. This is not the answer.
Here's where the situation takes a sharp turn. Even though it was the middle of the season and Shedeur Sanders had only one unimpressive outing, Jason Lloyd seized on that moment to double down and declare that Sanders was not the guy, using a single average performance to confirm an opinion he already seemed determined to hold. What Lloyd didn't anticipate was what came next. Sanders responded by delivering an outstanding performance, shutting down critics, playing at a high level, and reminding everyone why so many believe in his upside in the first place. In that moment, Lloyd was effectively proven wrong. And for someone who had been so forceful and confident in his criticism, that had to hurt. You might expect that kind of reversal to lead to some reflection or at least a softening of tone, but that never happened. As the season wrapped up, Lloyd once again turned his focus back on Sanders. But this time the criticism couldn't be traced to on-field struggles. Sanders had actually performed reasonably well when given chances, showing progress, toughness, and the ability to compete, with the numbers and tape supporting that view. Instead of addressing the football, Lloyd began picking apart things like throwing posture and body positioning, drifting into extreme nitpicking that felt less like honest evaluation and more like searching for any excuse to justify a conclusion he had already decided on. For many observers, that's when it stopped sounding like analysis and started to feel like a personal grudge against a young quarterback still fighting to establish himself in the league.
He doesn't know what he's looking at. He still doesn't flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. This isn't me saying this. I'm not an NFL. I've never claimed to be an NFL coach. This is people in that building will tell me he still doesn't know how to flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. He doesn't know what he's looking.
The reaction from the fan base has been fierce, with Jason Lloyd facing heavy backlash for the way he has gone after Shedeur Sanders, especially across social media, where the criticism has been relentless. Fans have accused Lloyd of bias, unfair treatment, and singling out a player who, in their view, has done nothing to justify such sustained negativity. And Brown supporters are known for being vocal when they believe one of their own is being wronged. Ken Carman has clearly taken note of this growing storm and believes he understands what is really fueling Lloyd's behavior. According to Carman, Lloyd's call for the Browns to cut Shedeur wasn't just about football, but a reaction to the intense pushback he receives every time he criticizes the quarterback, creating a repeating pattern where Lloyd makes a negative comment. Shedeur's fan base hits back hard, and Lloyd responds by escalating his stance even further. Carman also suggested that Lloyd simply does not like Shedeur on a personal level, which adds another troubling dimension to the entire situation and helps explain why the criticism keeps crossing the line from analysis into something much more personal.
I love Jason. I disagree firmly because I think we've lost our minds.
This is where Ken Carman really nailed his argument, making it clear that personal dislike or online backlash does not give Jason Lloyd the right to call for Shedeur Sanders to be cut. Because, as Carman bluntly put it, these are not Jason Lloyd's Browns. They belong to the fans and to Cleveland, not to a media figure who simply covers the team. Lloyd does not own the franchise, he does not run it, and he has no authority to decide who stays or goes, no matter how strongly he feels. Carman stressed that there is only one legitimate reason a player like Shedeur should ever be shown the door, and that would be if he were a genuine problem inside the building, someone who damaged the locker room, disrupted team chemistry, or put himself above the group. But everyone familiar with Shedeur Sanders knows that simply is not who he is, as he is widely regarded as a consummate professional, a committed worker, a team-first player, and someone his teammates respect and are willing to stand behind, which makes Lloyd's demand not just unfair, but completely out of line.
Do anything for that. If you want him cut from the team, it should be because he's a detriment to the actual team. Now, I don't know all the story. Maybe we'll find out that he's a terrible teammate. I don't think we will. But if you found out a guy was a terrible teammate and not that good, that's a reason to cut the guy. Just because we're bickering amongst each other about a quarterback doesn't mean the guy should be cut.
If Shedeur Sanders is not a problem in the locker room, if he has performed reasonably well when given chances, and if he has clearly shown the upside to grow into a solid NFL quarterback, then the obvious question is why the Browns would even consider cutting him, and more importantly, why Jason Lloyd is pushing so hard for that outcome in the first place. Ken Carman's point is that there is no football-based justification here beyond Lloyd's personal feelings and his irritation with Shedeur's fan base. And that is where things cross the line from analysis into bias. Carman has been absolutely clear in saying that Lloyd said something genuinely awful, not just something debatable, but something inappropriate and unprofessional, because calling for a player to be removed goes far beyond a normal disagreement about form or potential. When a respected voice like Carman calls out a colleague this directly, it signals that the behavior has become too extreme to brush off as standard sports talk. He went even further by suggesting that Lloyd's dislike for Shedeur has clouded his judgment entirely, to the point where emotion has replaced reason, and Lloyd is no longer offering rational, objective commentary, but instead making statements that do not make football sense, do not reflect what is best for the Browns, and add nothing constructive to the wider conversation around the team.
It to him to his face, and I've told him on the phone, and I'll tell him on the air again.
This whole episode forces a wider conversation about what responsibility sports media figures actually carry, where fair criticism ends and personal targeting begins, and how much an analyst's own feelings should be allowed to shape their professional commentary. Ken Carman's argument is that Jason Lloyd has crossed every one of those lines, letting bias and personal frustration overpower objective analysis. And that his call for the Browns to move on from Shedeur Sanders is the clearest proof of how far he has drifted from proper sports journalism. Browns fans are following this closely because it reflects deeper concerns about how their team is covered, how players are spoken about, and who truly deserves influence in shaping the narrative around the franchise's future. And many of them have made it clear they agree with Carman that Lloyd went too far and deserved to be challenged publicly.